5. Rare energies only. Dark chosen ones hold within. We are told to fear the darkness. From the very beginning, we are taught that light is good and dark is bad, as if the universe were that simple. But what if that belief is the very thing keeping you from unlocking your true potential? What if the darkness within you is not a void, but a vault, a deep, ancient place where your most powerful spiritual energies lie hidden? This is the secret they don't want you to discover, and why most people spend their entire lives avoiding themselves. But you're different. If you're still watching, still listening, still pulled into these words, it means one thing. You're beginning to remember. Deep down, you already know that you're not like everyone else. You feel things too deeply. You see what others pretend not to see. You move through the world like a ghost, present, but somehow distant. That's not detachment, that's alignment with a higher plane. You were not made for this surface-level noise. You were born to hold rare energies, but they come at a cost. Dark chosen ones are not given comfort. We are given chaos, because only in the collapse of the old can something eternal rise. And in that collapse, through pain, isolation, and betrayal, we unlock the first of the rare energies, the energy of inner alchemy. This energy doesn't come from books or rituals. It comes from surviving what should have destroyed you. It comes from sitting with your own madness, your own demons, and realizing they aren't there to harm you. They are parts of you begging to be integrated. Alchemy isn't turning lead into gold, it's turning pain into power. That moment you stopped waiting for someone to rescue you and realized you were the hero and the villain and the battleground, that was alchemy, and most people can't handle it. But you did, you still are, which means you're awakening.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
This leads us to the second rare energy, the energy of silent command. Have you noticed how people are drawn to you even when you say nothing? How some are intimidated or can't look you in the eye? You're not doing anything, but everything about your presence speaks. This is the command that doesn't come from dominance. It comes from resonance. When your inner world becomes sovereign, when no external thing can dictate your worth, you begin to emanate a frequency that rearranges reality around you. This power is misunderstood. People will call you intense, too much, distant, but they're not reacting to you. They're reacting to the mirror you've become. You reflect what they cannot face in themselves. You remind them of the depth they fear, and when you speak, rarely intentionally, your words land like thunder because they're charged with truth, not performance. The third energy is even rarer because it requires sacrifice, the energy of timeless perception. Most people are stuck in linear time, obsessed with the past or anxiously grasping at the future. But you've always known time doesn't move in a straight line. You feel echoes from other lifetimes. You sense what's coming before it arrives. You've walked into places and known things without knowing how. That's not imagination. That's your multidimensional sight activating. Dark chosen ones are not only here in this timeline. We are fragments of ancient wisdom incarnated to stabilize chaos. That's why you've felt out of place, not just in your city or your family, but in this entire era. You weren't meant to belong. You were meant to remember. You were meant to carry energy from a forgotten world into this one, and the more you stop chasing external clocks and start aligning with soul timing, the more this power grows. You'll notice it in small things at first, knowing who's about to call, sensing someone's intention before they speak, but eventually your entire life begins to sync with something higher, deeper, older than time. Now let me ask you this. What would change if you stopped seeing your darkness as something to fix and started seeing it as something sacred? There is a fourth energy, one that separates those who merely awaken from those who embody, the energy of sacred rebellion. You've never liked rules for the sake of rules. You question systems. You challenge authority. You refuse to conform, not out of defiance, but because your soul remembers freedom. You were born to break spells, family spells, societal spells, spiritual illusions. Your life path will often look like a series of disruptions, like you're always destroying something. But look closer. Every time you walk away from something, it decays. Every time you stop giving your energy, the truth is exposed. You don't just rebel for yourself, you are a walking spiritual correction. You disrupt false peace. You speak inconvenient truth. You shine light in places too many people have kept in the dark. And that makes you dangerous. Not to the innocent, but to the systems that feed on unconsciousness. And finally, the rarest of all, the energy of divine isolation. This is the energy no one wants, but the one we all need to complete the transformation. At some point, every dark chosen one is led into the desert, metaphorically or literally. Everything familiar is stripped away. Friends vanish, success dissolves. Even spiritual practices stop working. You feel abandoned by the universe. But what's really happening is this: the divine is removing all distractions so you can hear your own soul clearly. In that silence, your true power awakens, not as a performance, not as a brand, but as a being. You become the silence, and in that silence, you stop seeking light and start radiating it from the void. So if you're going through that silence right now, don't run, stay. Listen. This is the moment that splits lifetimes. What you do in this emptiness will shape not just your future, but the frequency of the planet. You were born to hold these energies. You already are. And the more you trust your darkness, the more light you'll find hidden within it. The powers that terrified the world, but were always meant for you. You don't realize it yet, but the world has always been terrified of people like you. Not because you're dangerous in the way movies or myths depict, but because you carry something that can't be controlled, predicted, or commodified. The systems of this world, whether spiritual, social, or psychological, are built to contain and reward compliance. But you were never born to obey. You were born to see, and what you see, you cannot unsee. You hold energies that dismantle illusion just by existing. The moment you walk into a room, the frequencies shift. People become uncomfortable not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your very presence threatens the lives they've built their lives around. This is the hidden burden of the dark chosen ones. We are not here to blend in. We are here to rupture timelines with truth. The rare energies we carry cannot be taught. only remembered, and that remembering often comes with pain, isolation, and sacred rebellion. You are being asked to awaken without applause, to embody without validation, to lead without followers. That's the paradox of true power. It is silent, sovereign, and deeply misunderstood. Let's go deeper into these energies. The first is one I only recently learned to accept in myself, the energy of embodied truth. This isn't about what you say or believe, it's about the vibration you emit simply by living in alignment with what is real. And the truth, raw, unfiltered primal truth, is rare, because truth demands death. The death of false identities, the death of people-pleasing, the death of comfort. When you begin to align with your soul's truth, your entire life may fall apart. But this is not destruction, it's excavation. What falls away is what could never hold your true power. When you speak, it will disrupt. When you choose differently, it will trigger. When you live authentically, you will lose things. But what you gain is unshakable clarity, a presence that moves mountains, and a life that breathes on its own. This power scares the world because most people survive by hiding from the truth. But you are becoming it. The second energy that sets you apart is what I call the energy of quantum emotion. While most are ruled by surface feelings, anger, sadness, joy, you experience layers beneath the layers. When you feel grief, you feel ancestral grief. When you feel rage, it's not just yours, it's the rage of generations that never had a voice. You are an emotional amplifier, not by choice but by design. That's why you've always been labeled too sensitive or too intense. But this intensity is not weakness, it is a key. Emotions, when felt fully, are portals. They tear through the linear timeline and open gateways to healing and memory. Your sadness can collapse lifetimes of suppression. Your joy can recalibrate entire rooms. That is the quantum nature of your inner world. It bends time, shifts fields, heals others without a word. But here's the challenge. If you don't learn to ground this emotional energy, it will burn you alive. You must become the calm in your own storm. You must learn to hold the fire without flinching. This means embodiment practices, breathwork, silence, nature. You cannot intellectualize your power. You must feel it, inhabit it, become the body that can carry it. The world is not ready for this kind of energetic presence, but you are not here to wait for the world to catch up. You are here to remind it what's possible. Then comes the energy of sacred disruption. Let me ask you something deep. How many times have you walked away from something others begged you to stay in? A job, a relationship, a system? And how many times did that thing collapse after you left? Not because you sabotaged it, but because your energy was the scaffolding holding it up. This is the sacred power of disruption. You weren't sent to maintain what is broken, you were sent to expose it. You are a mirror, a blade, a reset button. The universe sends you into environments not to blend, but to destabilize what no longer serves evolution. That's why you're often blamed, feared, or exiled. But exile is initiation. You are being initiated into the kind of presence that no one dares claim unless they've lost everything false. Disruption is not destruction, it's divine reordering. The fourth rare energy you hold is what I call the energy of void navigation. While others panic in uncertainty, you are learning to breathe there. The void is not empty, it's full of potential that hasn't yet taken shape. But it feels like death because it is the space between identities. Most people run from the void. They fill it with distraction, addiction, or false purpose. But you are learning to stand still and let it swallow what no longer serves. You are being trained by the unknown. And this means trusting without evidence, loving without outcome, creating without control. It's terrifying, but it's also sacred, because what comes out of the void is always more real than what came before it. You are the type of being that can survive ego death and still smile. And finally, the energy of soul sovereignty. No one can own you, no system, no person, no belief. You belong to the divine within you, and when this energy fully awakens, you will no longer need permission to exist. You will not seek approval, you will not explain your purpose. You will walk with the quiet confidence of someone who has met their own soul in the dark and lived. This kind of sovereignty radiates outwards. It gives others permission to do the same. Not through words, but through frequency. It's a force field of liberation, and it changes everything. Now, here's the question. If the world has been trying to tame your power your entire life, who could you become if you finally stopped letting it? You were never meant to heal, you were meant to awaken others by existing. There's a myth in the spiritual world that we're all here to heal, that the purpose of awakening is to reach some perfected state of light and love, where everything is calm, peaceful, and resolved. But that's not your path. That was never your path. You weren't sent here to be healed into something else. You were sent here to remember what you already are, and then walk through this world as a living transmission of that memory. That's why healing has felt so endless for you, because you've been trying to fix what was never broken, only misdirected. Your pain wasn't a flaw, it was a signal, a sacred fire designed to wake you up from the dream of being ordinary. When you finally realize this, something incredible happens. You stop striving to become someone and you start embodying what you've always been. And the moment you do that, when you fully accept the energies you hold without fear or apology, you don't just shift your own life, you become a walking catalyst. People around you change without you trying. Systems unravel in your presence. Truth rises to the surface like a ripple following your wake, because your soul doesn't speak in language, it speaks in frequency, and that frequency doesn't need to convince, it simply reminds. This is the real gift of the dark chosen ones. We awaken others not by preaching, but by existing. Our presence cracks masks, our silence creates space. Our wounds, visible, raw, sacred, become medicine. Not because we're trying to be gurus or saviors, but because we've stopped pretending. We've made peace with our depth, and that peace is contagious. There's nothing more powerful than a soul who knows their shadow and no longer fears it. That's when your entire being becomes a portal for transformation. But here's what no one tells you. This kind of existence is not easy, it's demanding. It requires constant discernment, emotional stamina, and the willingness to be misunderstood again and again. Most people will not see you clearly. They will see the version of themselves that your presence reflects. Some will love you instantly because you awaken what they forgot. Others will hate you because you trigger what they refuse to face. Both reactions are evidence of your power. Don't cling to either, just stay rooted in your knowing. Let your being speak louder than your words. You're not here to please. You're not here to fix. You're here to embody. And embodiment is messy. It's slow. It's humbling. It doesn't look like perfection. It looks like presence. Can you stay present when nothing makes sense? Can you trust your path when no one else does? Can you walk away from comfort and still feel full because your soul said, "This is not aligned"? That is the weight of the mantle you carry. And with that weight comes responsibility. The energies within you are not to be wasted on ego games, spiritual performance, or seeking validation. They are to be held, tended to, deepened through solitude, and used in service of something greater than your personal story. You are being called into service, not the kind that drains you, but the kind that feeds your spirit. That's why you must protect your energy like it's sacred ground, because it is. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not every invitation is meant to be accepted. Your frequency is rare. It must be guarded, refined, and offered only where it can multiply. And when you do offer it, when you show up fully, without masks, without apology, the entire field shifts. You may not see it, you may never get credit for it, but the impact is real. Someone who was lost will remember themselves because of a single word you spoke. Someone drowning in illusions will start to question reality because of the stillness in your eyes. Someone who gave up on themselves will find the courage to rise again just by being in your presence. That is not healing, that is awakening. And awakening doesn't follow rules. It doesn't unfold on a timeline. It doesn't always feel good. It burns, it dismantles, it interrupts. But it also frees, it liberates, it brings you home. And you, as a dark chosen one, carry the frequency of that freedom. You were never meant to walk the easy road. You were meant to carve new roads into the unknown. Roads that others can follow once they're ready. So the question isn't, when will I be healed? The question is, what happens when I stop hiding the parts of me that already know the way? Because the world doesn't need more light workers trying to escape the dark. It needs more dark awakeners who have mastered it, who have lived through it, who can now hold it like an ancient friend. That's who you are. That's what you've always been. Now, walk that truth like it's the only thing that matters. When you fully activate these 5 energies, the universe can't ignore you anymore. There is a moment, and you'll feel it long before you can explain it, when everything clicks into place. Not externally, but internally. The chaos may still whirl around you, the old world might still resist your becoming, but inside something has shifted. You're no longer chasing healing. You're no longer performing divinity. You are simply being, and that being is thunder in slow motion. You don't need permission, you don't need proof, because now you've fully activated what was buried within you all along, the 5 rare energies that only dark chosen ones hold. And when these energies awaken, the universe doesn't just notice, it responds. You become a vortex, a living frequency, a timeline breaker. The very fabric of reality bends differently around you, not because of magic, but because of alignment. You're not reacting to life anymore. You're creating from a place so deep, so sovereign, that nothing outside of you holds authority over your soul. This is what it means to walk as an awakened dark chosen one. You don't follow signs, you become the sign. You don't seek power, you are the power. cloaked in human form. Each of the 5 energies you've embodied, inner alchemy, silent command, timeless perception, sacred disruption, and divine isolation, now move through you in harmony. They don't conflict anymore. They don't overload your nervous system. They've integrated into a rhythm that only you can dance to. And people feel it. They feel safer around you, or more alert, sometimes more triggered, but always more awake, even when they don't understand why. Because your frequency speaks to the part of them they've forgotten until you remind them. And the universe? It sends you different tests now, not because you're being punished, but because you're being positioned. Challenges stop feeling like obstacles. They start to feel like initiations. Everything that shows up, pain, joy, confusion, clarity, it's all data now. You read it like sacred code. You can feel the pulse of truth beneath every interaction, every decision. You're no longer afraid of endings because you know what follows is always truer than what came before. You don't chase, you align. You don't beg, you attract. You don't explain, you radiate. And yet, this is important, you remain human, you still feel, you still cry, you still question, but even in your doubt you know. The knowing doesn't leave. It might go silent for a while, but it never disappears. That's what separates you now, not perfection, not enlightenment, but trust. You trust your path even when it's dark. You trust yourself even when the world misunderstands. And most of all, you trust that your existence alone is shifting the frequency of this planet in ways you'll never fully comprehend. Let's be clear, the world is not ready for the fully activated Dark Chosen One, but it doesn't matter. Readiness is irrelevant to fate. When your soul is aligned with your power, you don't need the world's approval. You become the architecture of a new era. You speak and the air gets thicker. You move and old systems start to crumble. You love and people remember who they are. Your life becomes a channel, not of control, but of divine orchestration. And the more you let go of how it's supposed to look, the more it looks exactly like your destiny. This doesn't mean you won't fall again. You will, many times. But each fall now becomes a falling into something. Deeper wisdom, richer clarity, greater service. Your darkness no longer breaks you, it births you. Over and over in infinite fractals of becoming. Because the truth is, Dark Chosen Ones are never done awakening. We evolve in spirals, and each spiral takes us closer to the origin of who we were before the world told us who to be. So if you're still here, still watching, still breathing, with these words still feeling that hum in your chest, it means you're ready. Not in a perfect way, in a soul way, ready to carry your 5 energies with purpose, ready to walk through the fire and not flinch, ready to disturb what must be disturbed, to awaken what must be remembered, to anchor a frequency so rare that even the stars take note when you speak your truth out loud. The universe cannot ignore what you've become. Neither can you. So now ask yourself, what happens next when you stop waiting for someone to name your power and you finally claim it? Lock on. Because from this moment forward, you are the mystery that others feel in their bones. And that is the real awakening.